We're now all set to bring to you a fireside chat on creating responsible advocates for DEI. We do believe that a good leader is able to envision and enact new ways of leading, as well as implement policies and practices that make every employee, every customer, and every partner feel that they are included. And to make sure we have an absolutely fantastic speakers joining us now, and they're looking forward to your comments and your questions. So please do share your questions with us. A very warm welcome to Ms. Jyothi Menon, Global Head of Recruitment Operations and Head India Human Resources, UBS. Let me also extend a warm welcome to Ms. Rachna Mukherjee, CHRO India and South Asia, Schneider Electric India. And moderating this very interesting panel is going to be Ms. Roshni, Rathi, Partner, BCG India. So over to you, Ms. Rathi.
Thanks a lot, Isha. And thanks, Rachna and Jyothi, for making the time to spend to talk with us today. Look, I think the importance of DE&I is well recognized by multiple companies. What we wanted to talk through with you, Jyothi and Rachna, today was really how do you make this happen, right? How do you drive this within your organization? Maybe I'll kick off with a few questions for each of you. Jyothi, perhaps for you, what would be helpful for us to understand is, what dimensions of diversity do you look at, whether it's gender or LGBT or perhaps other things? What dimensions of diversity do you look at, and really how do you kickstart the thinking on, on these dimensions within the organization?
Sure. Thank you, Isha, for the wonderful introduction, and Roshni, thank you so much. In terms of dimensions, now workforce diversity for us is a business imperative. It's critical to our long-term success. And in our experience, we are a 150-plus-year-old organization. In our experience, teams with diversity in factors like gender, race, age, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and so on, they better understand and also relate to our equally diverse client needs. A diverse workforce with an inclusive culture thereby paves the way for innovation, agility, orientation to the needs of stakeholders. Gender diversity is a key focus area for us, has been over the years, and we promote the same with a lot of women-focused hiring events. We partnered with diversity aggregators. We've introduced D&I early in the sourcing stage by having specific BEAMRE pools. We have diverse hiring panels, gender-neutral job posts, networks, coaching, mentoring, and so on, end-to-end. In terms of other aspects of diversity, we actually audited our workspaces. We reviewed our policies and communication to ensure that we could include diverse communities before we actually embarked on onboarding talent from LGBTQ plus community and also persons with disability. We have a very strong veteran hiring program and a network within. Plus, Career Comeback at UBS is a very successful program wherein we hire permanent workers for those who have been out of traditional workplace for a minimum of 2 years. So this is aimed to support people who want to come back into the corporate world. So while we've been doing a lot, we believe this is just the beginning, but there's so much more to do. And increasingly, we become inclusive and drive that culture beyond our workplaces as well. You spoke about kickstarting and also, kind of championing. In terms of kickstarting the whole program, several years back, we set up a D&I working committee within India group. Our focus was on laying the right foundation to create a sensitive workplace, a sensitive workforce, and also remove unconscious biases. So we all know that unconscious biases can come in very different forms. So these programs actually nudged behavioral changes and helped us build a culture of belonging, of inclusion. So inclusion for us has been about creating that culture wherein every individual feels that sense and pride of belongingness. They're treated with dignity and respect. That was predominant before we moved on to groups focusing on allyship for gender, sexual orientation, people with disabilities, also mental well-being. So we then promoted the firm strategy with hiring more, losing less, promoting more of our diverse talent. And that's the programs that I spoke to you about. When it comes to championing, yes, I lead the D&I efforts for India, but our working group comprises of volunteers with fair representation across levels of organization, across various functions, seniors right from our country head to heads of functions. So it is imperative that it's not an HR agenda. What we do here is that the ownership is with each of us within UBS. And our India chairman, our country head himself, and the leaders are actually sponsors of different D&I initiatives. So that's how we build the ownership, accountability, and it's a clear mandate to onboard, develop, promote, retain diverse talent within UBS.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jyothi, for sharing your journey with us. Rachna, perhaps a question for you. So your organization's efforts to attract and retain women have been recognized quite significantly, especially with the Catalyst Award. And you've also made, public commitments in terms of, saying that by 2025, women will represent 50% of all new hires, 40% of frontline managers, and 30% of senior leadership. How do you actually operationalize this, right? And are there, KRAs and things like that you use to make sure that things like this happen?
Right. So, a very interesting perspective you've picked up. Thank you, Roshni, for that. So at Schneider Electric, we provide equal opportunities to everyone, everywhere, and we ensure that we are able to create an environment which helps everybody be progressed in the workplace through inclusion. And what is important is that we make sure that equally valued and safe to contribute. That is a premise because we think that is what will take us forward to the better tomorrow. In the last almost 8 to 10 years, immense work has happened in terms of education, culture building, elimination and awareness of conscious bias and things like that, and a whole lot of education and culture building. So in the last 4-5 years, in Schneider Electric India, we've improved our women ratio by almost 20 points. And, this is not really an industry where you find a lot of women professionals, a lot of women leaders. But we just said that if we have to look at diversity, we are, of course, focusing on gender, generation, nationality, and all the others. But what we have to also look at is diversity of different thought process, diversity of industries. And that's how we were able to make the needle move. Now, in Schneider Electric, diversity, equity, and inclusion has been part of some of the overall goals. For example, we used to have a planet and society barometer, which has been there for many years in the organization. And that was the way we could commit to our shareholders and to our board globally on what are we going to do. So there were elements of DEI embedded into this. Then we moved on to some sustainability strategy to health and equity component in the sustainability impact goals. And then in the last few years, we've evolved to the ESG, the environment, social governance, which is called out. And we have now launched some sustainable development goals, wherein we call out that, we've made a public commitment that we will hire 50% women year on year. We will have women managers up to 40% to begin with, and women leaders up to 30%. We've done much better in the global organization, and I'll call that out, but that is what we've looked at. Second thing is pay equity has to be, less than 1 point gap. And India, if, for past many years, we are pay equitable, and if in certain parts, better pay, positive pay gap, if at all, for women. So those have been some of the things. Now, all these goals and commitments that we make to the shareholders in some way reflect for the leaders in terms of their long-term, plans, long-term incentives. It is very much embedded there. Then for across the organization, just not leaders, the short-term incentives are linked to how well the company performs on these goals. So in a way, there is a connect with all this. So everybody has a stake that this happens. But we sincerely believe that just this cannot make it happen. So important thing is there a culture of recognizing, empowering, and including all the diverse units in it or not? So that's something I would definitely call out. And then I would say, as I was saying, at the absolute senior level in the company globally, Schneider Electric has 44% women in the executive committee, handling diverse roles from functional to large businesses like North America to large business units and LOBs. We have 42% women in our board of directors, and that's the way we are going. Now, how we have driven this is around a holistic approach of development for women, and we recognize that for women, maternity, what you have after that in terms of mobility of house, in terms of maternity, and then medical care for elders are at least four of those stages. We call them as the 4M stages, where women fall off the workplace. So we decided, when we embarked on this journey some 8 years back, we decided we will really look at handling all of this. And we decided to have a holistic approach, which is around enablers, development, hiring, advocacy, society. In terms of enablers, then we had to relook at, of course, gender pay equity was one of them, but we have a global family leave policy, things like giving care leave. It's not about you falling ill. What about it when the family is not doing well? So 5 years back, we brought in this global family leave policy. All kinds of flexibility in our industry we launched in India in 2015. And then early 2021, we've made our organization permanently hybrid working. It's got nothing to do with COVID. We will work in this manner always now. That's what we've called out. So these are some of the initiatives. Blind hiring, for example, hiding the age, gender, experience level, and some of the things which could cause an unconscious bias is yet another thing that we've looked at. And then a host of learning and programs for managers on unconscious biases, women, infusing women at mid-level, because it's so difficult to find them at senior level. So that's the way we've been able to reform and add, a better gender balance to our top teams. And then leaders as he for she campaigns, women as allies, leaders actually going out and talking about their own commitments to the organization and outside. So I would say those are some of the initiatives that we've taken, and it's a journey. We are still on that journey, and we'll need to continue there. Thank you, Roshni.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rachna. So I lead the Pride at BCG Allies team, and I know that it's quite difficult to actually build the momentum and sustain it, right? So perhaps, Jyothi, a question for you here. What we found is that, you need to impact policies, structural things like policies. You also need to impact, broader organization culture, both at the top level as well as, the day-to-day interactions that employees have. And you need to really, engage allies in the efforts to promote diversity. Can you tell us a little bit more, perhaps, about how you've institutionalized and also how you've engaged allies?
Sure. Rachna, it was wonderful listening to your journey, and Roshni, thanks for the question there. So we actually address all of them. An organization's culture is, finally the culmination of all the priorities, the values, the behavior which support the workforce, and how they work individually within teams as well as with clients. So a strong, positive culture is, of prime importance, and the purpose plays a huge role in shifting the diversity needle to truly forming that, inclusive organizations. Policies, we definitely reviewed our policies and processes to be equal, to be fair, and inclusive of diverse talent. We did take one step at a time, however. So we moved from a gender diversity focus to auditing our premises and policies, having the right interventions in place prior to welcoming all other communities like, people with disability, even career comebackers that I mentioned, or the veterans, as well as members of the LGBTQ plus community. So it was, continuing to build the culture, making sure that we have everything in us in terms of policies and processes to be able to live together as one workforce, irrespective of which diverse community you belong to. And regarding engaging allies, we have groups like All Bar None. These are committed to gender equality, and in particular, the recruitment, retention, and advancement of women at UBS, of different communities at UBS. If I touch upon just the male allies, they work with networking groups like Women in India, Women in Technology. We have employee resource groups as well as global ambassadors. So the male allies actually help UBS achieve greater gender parity. And there's been sponsorship from our board. So we partner with the senior male allies who commit to continuously learn more about the gender agenda. They take targeted action in their area to drive greater gender equality and also advocate for other men at UBS to become allies along with them. So it's not just a problem for women. Enlisting that support of men in our efforts is really critical in making that progress in terms of the equality agenda. And senior male allies lead this network. Actually, I have a male ally who leads the Women in India network. That's the beauty of it, because there we realize men and women are equally responsible for the advancement of the gender equity at the firm.
Thank you, Jyothi. I think that's quite critical. The onus of advancing diversity shouldn't fall only on the diverse group of individuals, it should fall on all of us collectively. Rachna, perhaps the last question for you. I think we've talked a lot about what we can do within our organizations. How do you think about promoting DEI outside of the organization, just even outside of financial commitments, but broader efforts?
Okay. Thank you, Roshni, and very, very good insights from Jyothi. And I think finally it boils down to whether you can have a holistic and an all-encompassing approach or not. And I saw so many elements of that in what Jyothi shared. So for us, we did recognize early on that something needs to be also contributed to the society, because that is where we give and that is where we take from. So we thought in India, and this is particularly in Schneider Electric India, we launched something called Prerna Awards in 2015. And what we do is we recognize women from small and medium enterprises who have done some cutting edge work as entrepreneurs. And what we got is such interesting array of profiles. A young woman at the age of 18 has started a collection agency, which is considered to be primarily a male arena, right? She manages an organization which is an all-women organization. A woman in late 50s started a call for all people with disability. So we found, and then some people who contributed to the society, to the sustainability and stuff like that. Now we've done some 4 or 5 rounds of this award, and we find that it builds our awareness, it contributes to their encouragement. Jagriti is yet another initiative that we have. We encourage our employees and their families to go to the school and teach students in class 5, 6, 7 when they're still in an impressionable age, to learn about gender balance, gender parity, gender empowerment, and be respectful to both the genders. Because we realize we can't change the elders in the society. What we could do is probably make an effort to impact the mindset of the youngsters. So now we've trained, I think, over 11,000 students in different schools. And actually, it's just not rural. The urban population needs it almost as much as anybody else. Then Green Yodha is one of our programs, one of our campaigns we launched in the sustainability arena, where we are encouraging individuals and companies to come and pledge how they will live a more sustainable life, how they will live a more sustainable organizational life, and what will they do in their personal capacity to reduce the carbon footprint and stuff like that. And we are getting such great support and such great inputs on it. Then for the campus, there's a program called Go Green, which for the campus, not our campuses, all campuses across India, we drive across the globe. And then the people who are able to come up with great entrepreneurial ideas, their ideas picked up globally, and some saw 3 or 4 people identified across the globe. India appears very often there. And then these become the seed ideas which can be taken up for entrepreneurship or for work forward. So these are some of the things that we've done outside, which is really in the society, and trying to have our own drop in the ocean, if I may put it like that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rachna, for that. I think what we've learned is essentially that D&I really is an organization-wide agenda. And there's a lot that we can do structurally within organizations to drive that agenda. Also helpful for us to take a leadership role in society at large as we try to drive this. I'll actually hand over to Isha now. Thank you so much, Jyothi and Rachna, for sharing your time and your insights.